Well, it's been a slow couple of weeks in the Hoyoverse. We've had reruns, really long banners, and that's kind of meant I've had no new units to make videos about. So instead, I'm going to have a chat about our beloved Void Hunter Queen, Miyabi. We're going to talk about what makes her so good, why it's actually a great thing for the player base, but also the very real consequences that it's had on the game. And in the end, I'll maybe do a little should you pull anyways, just because there's some time left on the banner by the time this comes out, so let's do that. She's somewhat of an enigma when it comes to gacha game characters. Her being so strong is not the weird part. Strong characters and gachas go hand in hand. It's the longevity at the very pinnacle that is confusing. It really almost goes against gacha money making convention, since having a unit be so damn good for so long really disincentivizes players to pull for newer DPS units. Now, I don't want people to get the idea that she is so much better than every other unit, and that all of the DPSs who were released after her were essentially useless, and you cannot clear the endgame content without her. This really is just not the case at all. However, one of her biggest strengths is the fact that her damage is very, very high. It basically negates any of the mechanics set in place to encourage diversity. She can simply brute force even resistant or non-weak bosses, because her multipliers are just so damn high. You've probably seen this meme, and honestly, as funny as it is, there is some truth in it too. On top of this, although at the very highest level, she has a lot of complexity in her orb management and quick swap cancels, the reality is her skill floor is really, really high. Her kit is filled with auto parries, massive iframe windows, and extremely generous AoE. Overall, the gameplay loop is extremely simple to understand and get value out of. You pair this with the fact that she is also extremely free-to-play friendly and just so flexible from a team building perspective, and it's clear why she's rated so highly. Look at it this way, you can basically use any stunner or secondary DPS and any support and perform extremely well. Take a look at every support or secondary DPS which has come out recently, whether they're traditionally crit or anomaly based, and they can be paired with Miyabi. A player who literally starts right now can build a top tier team for Miyabi with like Lycon and Nicole, both units who are completely free to play by the way. Honestly, you could probably put her on a team with a cardboard cutout of Billy and the barista robot from the coffee shop or something, and still get 20,000 points on Deadly Assault. She's that good. So okay, she's super strong, but why is this inherently a bad thing? If anything, you could argue that this is actually a breath of fresh air from a power creep point of view. Let's take my brother for example. He is basically a free-to-play player, which means he obviously does not have the luxury of pulling on every unit like I do. Every new character comes with a cost-benefit analysis. Questions like, will this unit be worth it? How quickly will they be power crept? And how much value can I get from them? Do I need additional units to make them work? Do they need mindscapes or their Wenjin? Questions like these are real things players have to ask themselves if they care about getting the most value for their account. A unit like Miyabi being so universally strong is a huge win for players who cannot afford to get every unit. In some way, I know players who have literally kept playing ZZZ just because Miyabi was so strong and they were able to finally clear the endgame content. She is the poster unit for ZZZ, and her being lore accurate is overall pretty fantastic for most people. Okay, now it's time to address the title of the video so people don't accuse me of clickbaiting. What are the bad parts? What are the real consequences of having such a dominant character? One of the big ones for me is what I call the Miyabi or brick theory. Trademark pending on that one by the way. This is basically the psychic damage that players receive when they find themselves wanting to try the game or perhaps even return, but they are barraged with comments and memes about how them having missed out on Miyabi has instantly doomed their account, and there is simply no point of even playing because you're not going to be able to do anything. Admittedly, every game has had something like this at some point, but not to the extent that we have with Miyabi. I had friends who didn't even play ZZZ, or gacha games in general, literally asking me about the memes and whether it was true or not. That's when I knew it was doomed. Obviously, the reality of this situation, as I explained earlier, is nowhere near as bad. It just doesn't help with player growth and retention. which are two extremely important factors when it comes to the longevity and growth of the game. One of the saddest downsides is also how she has completely ended up skewing the perception of new units in the game, specifically DPS units. I mentioned earlier how free-to-play and low spenders have actually benefited a lot from the longevity of Miyabi. But this is also a double-edged sword. Every DPS that gets released will inevitably be compared to Miyabi, and every time, no matter how close they get to her, people will still complain and moan that she is just not yet dethroned. This then plants the seed in players' minds that they should just skip anyways, as it's not going to be worth it. We literally saw the exact thing happen with Yixuan, and honestly it really annoyed me, because I know some people ended up not pulling on a very strong unit just because the community decided to doom post about her being equal to Miyabi at best, and all of that. I don't know, man. It really just sucks the fun out of the game sometimes, and I really feel bad for a lot of the meta following free-to-play players that just end up suffering. Lastly is the one which affects pretty much everyone. Look, Hoyo understands they cannot nerf Miyabi. That would be insane. But they will always try and make the new content harder, whether that be unfavorable weaknesses, specific boss mechanics, or some combination of both. On the surface, it makes sense to target Miyabi like this, but the knock-on effects of this are felt across the board. Inflating HP is really never the answer, but it's always going to be Hoyo's simplest band-aid to the problem. But all this really does is make older and weaker units feel even worse. If Miyabi is going to struggle, how do you think someone like Ellen is going to fare? Or try playing Hugo, a unit which came out only a couple patches back, against the new corrupted bosses. Not only are they ice resistant, but they also cannot be stunned for large portions of the fight. Hugo might as well be holding an inflatable scythe for those boss fights. Whew. Anyways, like I said, Miyabi is an enigma, and this whole thing is kind of blown out of proportion. From what I heard, the next Void Hunter will be coming out pretty soon, but is Hoyoverse gonna go down the exact same path again? I personally don't think they will, but what do I know? I'm just some part-time YouTuber. Oh, and should you pick her up on the rerun? It's kind of a complex one. If you're a new player, I think she's worth picking up. She's still super strong, and that probably won't change for a good while. But if you're thinking about getting M2 or maybe her Wenjin, that's also not a bad idea. M2 is really good and really fun. But we do have really cool characters coming up soon, so that's kind of up to you. I know that was no help at all, but it is what it is. But that about wraps it up. Thank you for listening to me ramble while I'm sick. There wasn't a lot of editing in this video, just wanted to get something out. Let me know what you think. Feel free to like, subscribe, and hopefully I will catch you in the next one. Peace.